how is it that, and how is it we now have that person's past if we have not replaced them? Can you, please, if you can, go into detail here, as I've heard it explained before, and still I can't seem to allow it to stick.
The reason it's not sticking is that your concept is erroneous in the idea that things are stuck where they are and you're replacing it. Like it's not moving too. Everything moves together. Everything moves at once. You shift, they shift. The idea is that you're all constantly shifting. So nothing is ever standing still. You're not replacing anyone. You may be taking over, euphemistically speaking, the spot that they used to occupy, but they don't occupy it anymore. Again, look at a stream or a river. Waves move through it and all of that, and water flows and all of that. But one water molecule is, in a sense, not taking over from another water molecule. The other water molecule that was there a moment ago has moved on downstream. So it's all moving simultaneously. Nothing is being replaced because nothing is standing still to be replaced by something else coming in. Everything is moving simultaneously.
Thank you, Bashar. We have a bunch of questions about animals.
Yes.
Do animals have silver cords, and do they understand death?
Animals and any living thing in that sense, and even inanimate objects, have types of energetic connections you could refer to, if you wish, as a type of silver cord. They're a little bit different than those experienced or created by humans, but the idea nevertheless is that everything physical has a connection to the non-physical energetically, and you could refer to that connection as the silver cord, from individual physical mind to higher mind, physical being to non-physical being. Animals understand death very clearly because they do not experience the idea consciously as such an abrupt transition as humans have because of their belief systems. For animals, the idea of what you call physical life and what you call non-physical death is a much smoother transition for most than what many humans believe to be the case. They don't see such a large separation because many of them have the senses to peer into non-physical reality and consider it part of their daily experience as reality. So the shift for them is not seemingly as abrupt as it may be for many humans who hold on to the belief system when they die that non-physical reality is so much different. Physical reality and non-physical reality are very close in vibration because physical reality isn't real. It's just a projection of consciousness. It's just, in a sense, a dream that the non-physical you is having in spirit. Therefore, again, similar to the idea that sleeping physically and waking up physically aren't that much different with regard to what's happening in physical reality. One moment you're lying down and you're focused in a different way, and the next moment you're sitting up and focused in a different way. The transition between physical life and death is only that thin, just like lying down and then sitting up. For animals, it is that smooth. For trees, it is even smoother. For minerals, it is smoother still. No matter how dense a mineral may be, because you consider it to be inanimate, and many humans consider minerals to be unconscious, which isn't the case, they simply use consciousness in a different way, piggybacking on your consciousness to understand themselves as a reflection of your consciousness. For them, even though they seem to be dense physically, they're actually quite close to non-physical reality because they're not interjecting themselves consciously in the same way you are with the idea of the kind of dense thematic experience that humans choose to experience physical reality to be. They are simply there, in a sense, as what you might call background reflections, things that carry meaning, things that carry information, but because they are pure information, they are not so separated from the idea of non-physical reality, which is all about patterns of information from one point of view. Does that answer your question?
Yes. And I have a follow-up question to that. Since it's kind of an easy transition for animals, easier than for humans. Last week we talked about euthanasia
Yes.
and how, there's sometimes guilt about having to euthanize one of your pets. If it's an easy transition, wouldn't the pets just lay down and die when they were ready?
If
Why
it
would we?
didn't, if it didn't necessarily mean anything for the human to experience that transition, most of them simply would. But again, remember, they are part of your family, and there may be purpose in the human experiencing the transition in the way that it typically happens. It's not just about the animal's transition. It's about what the human also experiences that helps them in their journey by going through that experience with the animal.
Okay. So there is a purpose that they experience together when there's the.
Everything is an orchestration. There are no accidents. Everything is an orchestration. All you have to do is look deep for the meanings and what you're getting out of it and why you're experiencing it the way that you are experiencing it along with the animal. Because it allows you to go through certain processes of grieving and letting go and reconnecting on a different level and many other reasons for why it may be happening the way that it's happening. An animal on its own, out in what you say, the wild, may just simply leave. If there is no purpose for it to interact with any other kinds of beings, it may just simply leave.
Okay. This question is about spiders. Are spiders closer to their silver cords than humans since they weave literal silver cords throughout their lives?
It's not that they're closer to them. They may have a different kind of understanding since they are the reflection of interconnections and webs, but it's not that they're closer. They may just have a different understanding, a deeper understanding, a different kind of relationship and connection to the idea of any kind of connection or cord that would be reflective of the idea of webs and interconnectivity.
Can cats and dogs communicate with human infants in the womb? Can they sense the silver cords of fetuses?
Yes.
Okay. It's a longer question, but very good. Scientists today attribute an animal's ability for consciousness and self-recognition through the mirror test, where they see if a given animal can recognize themselves in the mirror. The animals that can do this include bottlenose dolphins, great apes, elephants, and more. However, I intuitively feel as though this isn't a completely accurate measurement for consciousness and self-recognition. What would you say this self-recognition mirror test is actually measuring or showing? And why are some animals capable of it and some are not? And what would be a more accurate test for self-recognition or consciousness?
Well, let me put it this way. The mirror test is an accurate test for self-awareness. The idea as to whether or not an animal recognizes itself is not necessarily the end-all be-all for determining self-awareness, because an animal that doesn't necessarily recognize the reflection as itself still may see the reflection as another animal. And for one animal to see something and consider it to be other than itself is still self-awareness. The animal would have to have absolutely no recognition whatsoever of anything in the mirror in order for it to, quote unquote, fail the test of self-awareness. But if the animal sees the image, even if the animal considers it to be another animal, you cannot necessarily consider something to be other and know it is not yourself without a sense of self-awareness. The animals that do recognize themselves in the way that humans do in a mirror simply have stronger connections to the idea of the expression of human consciousness, whereas other animals may not necessarily have such a strong connection to the expression of human consciousness in the way that humans experience it. But the idea of the mirror test is accurate for recognizing self-awareness as long as the animal either recognizes itself or thinks that the reflection is another animal. Both are indications of self-awareness as opposed to what's in the mirror or in conjunction with what's in the mirror. Both are the result of self-awareness. And in that sense, the scientists are mistaken that non-recognition of self somehow fails to indicate self-awareness. So both do indicate self-awareness and therefore is accurate on that level.
Yes, because I noticed my cat notices herself in the mirror, but I don't know if she knows it's her or another cat.
It doesn't matter because, again, even recognizing something as other than the self is a recognition of the self.
Right.
Otherwise, there would be no recognition of anything.
Right.
Following my excitement.
Yes.
I spent 3 months in Australia a few years ago and loved everything about the place, the wildlife, the people, the landscapes, and I'd love to live there. But I've not found a way of going there with the visas and things. I don't meet the criteria. I'm not sure whether it's because it's not part of my life path.
Well, maybe not yet.
Timing.
Maybe not yet. It could be just the timing. Remember, the formula states that you act to the best you can on your excitement. And if you can't act on the thing that seems to be the most exciting, you act on what you can that you are able to act on, which could ultimately lead to your ability to act on other things that you are excited about. So if you have really allowed your creativity and imagination to attempt every possible way of going to Australia, being that as a representation of acting on your highest excitement, and you find that you cannot do it, then you have to remember there is both green light synchronicity and red light synchronicity. The green light synchronicity being that which you are capable of taking some action on, and the red light synchronicity not being negative in a sense, but simply saying this is not the path to take, this is not the step to take right now, therefore it could be a matter of timing. So stay focused in the excitement of being where you are excited to be, but remember that there can be no insistence. If you find that there is nothing you can do to act on it right now, act on what you can act on. And if it is necessary for you to wind up in that place on your planet, then acting on the next thing you are capable of acting on will ultimately lead you to have the ability to do so. Do you understand how this works more clearly now?
Yes, that really helps. Thank you.
All right. Anything else?
Yes, I have a question about a fear I've had for a long time, since a child.
Yes.
And I just need some help in finding a way to overcome it. I think it's related to a trauma I experienced as a child.
Such as?
It affected me when I was on swings, trampolines, and then later on in life, it started affecting me with driving. So I haven't driven for years, and I'd love to. I love to have the freedom to travel everywhere, but this fear is limiting me, and I'm not sure how to overcome it.
Well, what is it a fear of? What are you afraid will happen?
It's to do with the speed. I'm fine when I'm driving in lots of traffic and in towns, but as soon as I get on a road where I have to build up speed, it's something about the speed of having to come.
And what are you afraid will happen if you go too fast?
Yes, it's this fear that just instinctively kicks in.
Fear of what?
Fear. I'm not sure.
Are you afraid you're going to crash?
See, logically, I know I'm a very good driver, and it just doesn't make sense, this fear to me.
Well, obviously, it must make sense to you on some level, or it wouldn't be there. You're holding on to it for some reason, and it could have to do with the idea energetically of fearing that you're going ahead of yourself, that you're not staying in the present, that you're going too fast, that if you go faster, if you accelerate in your vibration and your energy, that something will be missed, you will leave something behind, something bad will happen. we'll relate this symbolically to the idea of your own growth and acceleration. Is there something about the idea of growth and acceleration energetically and spiritually that you are dubious about in terms of staying a little bit in the slow lane so that you don't go too fast for yourself, that you are afraid you might miss something or cause harm to yourself or someone?
Um, I'm not sure. I'm not aware of any hesitation. I mean, I'm excited to explore and move forward, and all the spiritual aspects of moving to the new earth. All that.
All right.
Exciting to me.
Let's change the subject a little bit while still remaining in the general arena. What are you excited about in life besides what you've already talked about?
Wildlife, animals, plants. I just love being in nature. I would love something, a job, working in the habitat, helping the habitats.
And is that something you
helping
can
animals.
act on?
I do to the best of my ability. I spend as much time in nature when I'm around animals. I just love to be around animals, any creatures.
All right.
I do as
One
much as I
moment.
can.
One moment. Is there some more specific way you can be of assistance with regard to the idea of wildlife?
I did start an ecology course at university, but I found the chemistry and physics too stressful. So I wasn't able to continue.
Yes. But I'm talking about the idea that there are particular places that actually assist animals, harbor animals, treat animals with kindness and love. And in that sense, are there places like that that you are attracted to be at?
Yes, I'd like to work at nature reserves.
Where are you living now?
I'm in Stratford-upon-Avon in England.
Is there any such thing in your area, or do you need to go to another area to be able to work at such a place?
I need to go to another area to do that, and part of the issue is the driving to get there.
Well, you don't have to drive fast to get there, do you?
Well, yes and no, because some
What's
of the
the
roads
yes and what's
you
the
have to
no?
go. Pardon?
What's the yes and what's the no?
I don't have to go fast, but on certain roads you really do need to go a certain speed because you'd be causing an accident and
Yes, we understand. We understand. Are you saying there are no other roads, no other ways to get there that would be accommodating the speed that you are comfortable at?
See, even on country roads, country lanes, there tends to be like a speed limit of 50 mile an hour, and that for me is too fast.
What is your ideal speed when driving?
Probably about 30 mile an hour.
All right. Now, let's go back to the idea of, is there some place that you can move to that would allow you a shorter distance of travel to working at the places that we're talking about?
Yes, that would be an option. Yes.
Well, what is that?
Well, there's places nearby like Warwick, and I think they have nature reserves which I could go and work at.
Then why aren't you?
Yes, I could help voluntarily.
All right. Well, why aren't you then?
Good question.
Well, thank you. Do you have a good answer?
Yes, I think because I've travelled around a lot and I've finally settled in Stratford-upon-Avon. I love it here. It's the upheaval of moving again when it's not really the place I want to move to.
All right. One moment. Where is it you said that you could go and volunteer? Is it close?
It's not too far. It's not on like a bus route. But yes, it would mean driving.
But can you drive there at your comfortable speed?
I'm not sure because
Why
I
don't you
haven't
find
looked
out?
too much
you
into
see?
the.
Here's the idea. You're not really acting on your excitement. Not really, because you're allowing your fears to hold you back, and it's actually preventing you from trying to find options that would allow you to take action on what you say is your excitement. So let go of the fear in the sense of, oh, I can't do this because A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Find ways to get around it. Find places that you would like to be working at that would allow you to travel there in a comfortable manner. But you're not even doing that.
I think it's because of the hesitation of driving again. That's what's held me back.
Yes, I know. That's what I just said. But it's your expectation that you have to drive a certain way to get there that is holding you back, when you could be looking for places you don't have to drive quickly to get to.
Yeah.
So we would suggest that if you're truly passionate and excited about doing what you say you're wishing to do by working with animals or in a reserve, then allow yourself to keep looking for places that are close enough and accessible enough to your driving at the speed in which you are comfortable.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I'll do that.
All right.
Thank you
You are welcome. Does that help you?
very much. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
It is our passion and our pleasure. You're welcome. Aveo.
Aveo.
Understand that this is your time of year in which you honor the idea of giving thanks and appreciation and gratitude. Not that you cannot do that every day. Not that it wouldn't be wise to do that every day. But we understand that you have seasons in which you focus on certain ideas, certain concepts, this being the one of giving thanks. So we will at this point remind you of something we have discussed before, to make sure that you remind yourself to remain in alignment with the attitude of gratitude. And that is what we have termed before the AAA scenario of acknowledgement, appreciation, and allowance. The idea is in acknowledging what you do have, what you are appreciative of, what you are grateful for in your life, and not acknowledging the idea of the negative. In other words, not focusing on the idea of the things that you have in the past defined in a negative way, not that you cease to recognize when something may be negative, but that you remain in a state of grace, acknowledging what you do have rather than acknowledging what you do not have. And remaining in that state of gratitude and appreciation will again guide you and accelerate you in your life, where synchronicity can open up in miraculous and magical ways by staying in that state of appreciating all the connections you have, all of the things in your life, all of the people, all of the experiences, everything that you do have, that you do experience, that comes into your life, acknowledging it in a positive way as having a reason to be there, even the things you don't prefer, because again, you know it's got to be there for a reason. So I remind you of this day, so that you can stay in a state of thanks and allow yourself to feel the appreciation and gratitude for what is given to you, for what you have attracted in your life, and not focus on what you do not have. Because when you focus on what you do have, more will come, because you're opening the door for that. Focusing on what you do not have closes the door and prevents anything you truly need from coming forward to be recognized by you consciously. So allow yourself to remain in that state of acknowledgement, and then appreciate what you have, and then allow what needs to come, for it will be what you need at that moment, even again, if it's what you don't prefer. It's got to be there for a reason, and it may give you the opportunity to examine your belief systems, which is always important, and a main step in the formula that we have shared with all of you, recognizing your beliefs, recognizing how to stay in a positive state so you can gain the benefit from whatever arrives, whatever shows up, whatever manifests in your life. for it is always capable of being used in a positive way. Again, we're not saying that you start calling negative things positive things. You can still observe something to be negatively oriented or negatively created from fear, from negative belief systems. But by staying in a positive state, even with that recognition, you allow yourself the opportunity to use what manifests in a positive way. And this is part of allowing the idea of what needs to come next to come more easily, more effortlessly. So acknowledging, appreciating, and allowing the AAA formula will help you remain in a state of grace and remind you every day of what you are blessed to experience in your life, and remind you why you chose this life, why you chose to have these experiences to accelerate your soul's experience of growth. For as you know, physical reality, being the experience of density, being the experience of time and space, affords you the opportunity to discover yourself from new points of view, new perspectives, in ways that cannot be done in spirit, in ways that allow you to accelerate more quickly, to grow more quickly, by facing the challenges that come into your life head on, more directly. And staying in that state of grace, and staying in that state of appreciation and gratitude for what comes your way, will allow you to work with it constructively, creatively, positively, and transform anything that comes to you, created out of negativity, into something that you can use and apply in your lives positively, and allow you more clarity, more sentience, more awareness, and more clear consciousness of what your life path and theme is all about, to allow you to be more of who you truly are, to align with your true core frequency and vibration. So this Thanksgiving and every day, allow yourself to acknowledge, appreciate, and allow your life to flow easily, effortlessly, joyfully, peacefully, and lovingly. And you will allow yourself to experience a growing sense of grace and gratitude and appreciation for all things in your life as they reflect more and more the state of being that is aligned with your Thanksgiving message. In return for allowing us to remind you of the AAA formula, so important in going into the window of open contact, in return we ask now, in what way may we continue to be of service to you? You may begin with your questions and your